He's like that one guy
Okay.
on Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yo, what's up, everybody watching Dev Tips? We're live streaming right now. My name is Travis Nilsson. We got Max right here, and then we got
What's
Jaina
up, everybody? You're still
there.
sharing my screen.
Oh, do you not want to share the
Hi,
screen?
everybody.
Let's do the move on the screen.
Now during introductions.
It's so nice to see you. How you doing on Sunday?
What's
okay,
up,
so I
everybody?
thought we would do for a theme this week is just kind of like, how do you get into the creative zone is kind of like the theme I was thinking of. And we each have like a little creative project that we could do. We could either show it or just talk about our experience of being in the zone. How do you stay there? How do you court that feeling of feeling creative and taking action on it? So Max, you were just sharing your screen. Do you want to go first, bud? I know you had a creative project to talk about today.
Sure, yeah. We were saying I could kind of walk you through how I build up a track. But you were saying that you wish you knew how to use Ableton, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll just do one from scratch.
Whoa, okay.
Nice.
And just show you, but it might take a while.
Well, what do you want to do? Let's hear the track, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I'll walk you through this first and just tell you how I built it up here. Okay. So we're in Ableton here. I'm going to boost this audio just a little bit.
I'm going to
I've got this.
Jaina.
Okay. So I've got this track here in Ableton, and I'll play you just a snippet of the hook here real quick so you can hear. Can you guys hear that okay? Can you guys hear that okay?
Yeah, I was just muting us because there's like this bird outside.
That's okay.
Like
It'll add to the
along.
ambiance.
But yeah, dude, it sounds really good. So this is Ableton.
Yeah, this is Ableton. So I'll walk you through how I got started here. So I started with the acoustic guitar riff, which is just something I was noodling around, and then tracked this out. Just tracked it left and right. And there's no processing on these. And let me know if the music's too loud or my voice is too loud. Or
It sounds pretty good.
That's
So
good.
you said you tracked them out separately, like you played it once for left channel and once again for right channel?
Yes. Yeah.
Why would you do two separate takes instead of just like making it stereo?
Because you want them to be slightly different. Because if it's just stereo, you're not going to hear the difference in the signals. But if it's slightly different, it actually pulls your ears apart, and that's what makes it stereo.
Makes it feel wider?
Mm-hmm. It makes it feel wider and gives it the stereo field.
Because they're not perfectly the same.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that you could do is use one track and use a delay. It's called a Haas effect, where the left delay is slightly different than the right delay. And that's going to make it sound a little wider too. But just the very nature of two separate performances, in a person's ear, they can unconsciously identify that. And it does make it more dynamic.
I like that.
And a little bit organic. So yeah, we've got two here, and I have zero processing on this, just on the group. I'm just cutting out the lows, get some of the rumble out. I'm hitting it with a little bit of compression here, actually a lot of compression. And this specific compressor, this is from UA Audio, Universal Audio. And this is a recreation of the Teletronics, like famous compressor that they created. They created the hardware, I think. But they have apparently the best, and I support this, but it could be psychosomatic. But they do have the best sounding emulations. It just always sounds amazing, the grit, the texture. Like I'll actually play this for you without the compressor, so you can hear what it does to the signal. So we do have a dynamic signal here, and there's certain things that are poking out as far as volume is concerned, and you can actually see that in the wave file here, where these are poking. So when we turn this on, it's going to grab these and kind of drop the volume. And you can see that it's decreasing those to just kind of level out the signal a little bit. So here it is before. And after. So you can hear some of that detail comes out a little bit.
Interesting. Now, what's the difference between never mind. I won't ask that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, ask.
Well, I was going to say, what's the difference between a compressor and a limiter? But I kind of think I know, but I probably don't know. I use a limiter a lot, but I don't ever compress.
A compressor is going to turn down the volumes. A limiter, once you hit it, like essentially like this compressor, you can turn it into a limiter and it becomes a brick wall where it actually like cuts off the signal instead of turns the volume down. And it will, anything that peaks over that, it's going to get a little bit of distortion. And you can actually also just use a compressor for that. I can just compress it and then turn it up until it's hitting and getting some distortion. People do that like stylistically.
Okay.
But yeah, the limiters
are very similar then.
They're pretty much the same thing. Yeah, it's really, it comes down to like the attack and like the way it's dealing with the peak of the signal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
A brick wall limiter. So you can see here, for example, when I'm playing this and these loud notes come in, you're going to see that this is showing gain reduction. So as it goes past a threshold, it's turning down that signal by like 10 decibels there, for example. Or like 2 decibels there. So as it goes over the threshold, it's just turning it down and reducing the gain by, whatever the threshold you set.
Yeah.
And then you can turn the whole signal up because it's going to bring the quieter things. You can get them closer to the louder things. Whereas a limiter is just going to cut it off. A limiter is not going to turn that down. It's going to it's a brick wall.
I want to say this too. It's just like this is totally different as a topic, but as an aside, as a UX designer, and I often do UI as well, I really love like audio plugins and audio software because they're still very skeuomorphic. Like the switch looks like a a knob you're going to turn with your hand and stuff. I love that they retain that. I have no idea why, but it's really only on audio software. It's
they retain the tactile thing.
It's like that all the time. And if you ever like run up to like an app and it's just like a bunch of squares, it's so boring. I love it. I love the skeuomorphism of it.
Yeah.
I love it too. You should see these. Actually, I'll show you some of these pedals. So like these are all modeled after just straight up pedals.
Isn't that lit? And it's so fun to turn those knobs.
It's
way more fun.
It's so much fun. It's way more fun. It really is. And I think that's why they do it. And also like, in the world of digital music making, having that analog, not just the sound and not just like using analog stuff, but kind of just the whole vibe, like seeing the knobs. It feels tactile still. It feels like you're touching the music a little bit more.
That's true. People do put analog on a pedestal in music production. Like, oh, this is an analog synth. They'll like really talk that aspect of it up. And it makes sense actually. Like the designer of a plugin, even though it's not an analog, it's a digital, but they'll be like, they'll try to play up that emotive feeling. I think it's good design actually.
Well, this specifically is what the hardware looks like. And this company made the original hardware, which is in every major studio in the world. Like it's a famous piece of hardware.
So there's a lot of familiarity there too.
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting is the reason this type of analog gear is amazing is because each one actually heats up. The wires heat up, and just the way that the circuitry reacts gives it a specific sound, and they model that specifically, which is really interesting. Yeah. Even on my interface is also from Universal Audio, and it has like inboard compressor and preamp, and it's using the same like circuitry, and like it'll heat up in a certain way, which is really interesting.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I've taken up too much time, but you were telling us about these 2 tracks, left and right, and they're not really, they're clean, very clean, a little bit of compression. What else? Yeah,
a little compression, a little bit of shaping on the EQ here. So I'm just cutting that out and bringing some of these shiny stuff at the end here. And then I'm just putting it to tape, this kind of tape emulation with some drive here.
That's cool. So are these all like preset within Ableton, or do you like have to download all your gear?
These this EQ is just Ableton's EQ, which I love. But both of these plugins are from Universal Audio. And this one's free, actually. This is a free plugin.
Nice.
But I love it. It's like a nice, quick little tape. I like to not put everything to the same tape emulation or to the same compressor, just to put some difference in some of the textures.
Yeah.
But that's it here for the acoustics, right? So there's no treatment on the individual tracks. So let me put all these together here, and I'll show you what it sounds like with this off and on, so you can really hear what just these couple little bit of processing does. So this is with nothing. And this is with it on. So you can hear it brightened it up. You know, I'm shaping it here. And you can hear the texture in the fingers, like those quieter sounds have been brought up from the compression. So here it is without again. You can hear it's muddy in the low end and everything like this. So you can hear that's pretty drastic difference. Hopefully you can hear it through the screen share.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that sounds great.
Yeah, dude. Now, when you're like making a song and you're in your DAW, your digital workstation here, are you like, how many times do you have to listen to that like lick? You know, that guitar part. How many times do you even hear it? You know,
A lot.
it's got to be hundreds, right? Yeah, you're like listening, turning things on and off, and listening again.
Yeah, definitely a lot. But I think that's when you know something is decent, if you can listen to it and you're not getting sick of it too quickly.
But that's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah.
Yeah, although I am sick of this song already.
I like it.
I love it.
I have heard it a lot. But then after that, I threw in some just like my tambourine hit. So I'm just hitting this tambourine here. Let me place it here. So you can hear that tambourine there. I'll go ahead and loop it.
Yeah.
And there really is nothing going on with this. It's panned to the right a little bit. There's no processing on it.
You don't have any reverb on it?
I have it sent to this reverb bus just a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll talk about my reverb bus in a moment, because this is actually pretty important. You can see I got quite a bit going on here with the reverb. And I have a little bit of echo here, but I'm just sending a little bit of reverb to put it in the same space. And
you're good at tambourines, dude.
Thanks. Yeah, I just hit it once, and then
you got to shake it
here
too. I can hear the shake.
So we've got the tambourine, and then I also recorded shaker. So this is pretty standard. Just a little shaker here.
Nice.
Is it an egg?
Yeah, just a little egg.
Nice.
And then this is a percussion loop that I grabbed from Splice, cut it up, pitched it, and then you can see I'm just shaping a little bit, just cutting out the lows and the highs and kind of saturating these low signals a little bit. So you can hear when I shut this off.
Is that a dog?
It is a dog, yeah.
It's okay.
Cool.
So you can hear.
Is that Max?
Yeah, in the background, yeah.
Wait, I thought you said you got this
It
from
bled.
Splice.
Yeah, but everything gets pressed down into
cool.
a track.
I like that even better.
I think.
I'm happy that I know the dog.
Yeah.
It makes it better.
So let's see. So we got all of this perk, and I'm actually not processing any of this percussion. I actually should compress this a little bit. I'm not done with this track. I need to treat it a little bit more.
Hashtag.
But you can hear everything together, and then with the guitars. And then I wanted some strings, so I brought in a string loop that I cut up a little bit and pitched it, and then you can see I'm just cutting out the lows here. I'll cut out a little bit more. And this track, I'm actually just running on Soothe, which is a resonance remover. And I'm just left it on the factory preset because this is the area that I want to remove resonance from, because I don't want it conflicting with like the vocals and the guitars and stuff. It's holding that same kind of frequency range. And you can see I have the sidechain turned on because I'm actually taking the sidechain from the other violin track here. So when these come in, so let me actually come to the end here because we have this other violin track. And I want to show you.
The design of that one was really pretty to me. I liked that.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'll show you what it does here. So you can see I have violins, and then I have these strings, and when they're playing together here.
Ooh.
Right. So there's a lot of overlap in the frequencies. So I wanted to cut out the overlap resonance here. So when I turn it down, you can hear in the right channel, you can hear.
This is to make
the
room
violins
for the
come
strings?
through. Yeah, to make room for those strings. So I'm sidechaining it to these violins.
Got it.
And then the entire instrument thing, which includes this pizzicato and the slide guitar. The pizzicato actually is a guitar. You can hear it right here. Or it's a viola, muted.
Nice.
Possibly. So that all of these, and this I'm just shaping it, and I have one of these Safari pedals just to compress it a little bit.
Owl control.
So I'm just crushing a little bit so I can put it back in the background a little bit, and then I'm hitting it to tape, which is also from Safari pedals.
Nice.
And I'm just giving it a lot of grit here so it cuts through. And then you can hear it in the whole mix.
Nice.
And I have this sent to quite a bit of reverb here. And then you can see the whole thing, the entire instrument bus. I have all of this in a group, right? And all of these instruments sit in like relatively the same places as the vocals, or there's a lot of overlap. So what I like to do is throw this same resonance remover here, focus on this upper area. I move this a little bit where the vocals are kind of sitting, and I'm side chaining everything to the vocals. So you can see only when I'm singing does it affect the signal.
Interesting.
So as I'm singing, the instruments are moving frequencies out of the way to give a pocket for the vocals to help them sit in the mix a little bit more.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
I like it.
And then I have just a general flat one that I just turned up here just to clean up a little bit of resonance. Just turn the selectivity up a little bit more. Just to clean it up a little bit here. Probably going to lift it up a little bit, actually. Just clean up that low end from those strings. And then I was sidechaining it to some drums, but I removed the drums, so I'm going to remove that. And then here on the entire instrument rack, you can see I'm just cutting out those lows and just throwing it to this RC20, just some like tape emulation. Pretty much turned most things off. I got a little bit of magnet, a little bit of reverb on, like washing over it a little bit, distorting the signal here a little bit, giving it a little wobble. So
The RC20, yeah.
It just kind of puts a warm blanket on the entire group together and makes them sound cohesive.
In like the lo-fi production world, the RC20 is pretty popular. Like people really like it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it's very popular, and it is good. I love it. I mean, just you got a lot of modules here, and you can just play around with it till it sounds nice and get what you want. I do try to limit it, I think, just because it's so popular that for some reason I'm like
everything else. Like
I want to reach for something else, but I'll throw it in there when it feels right.
It's good though, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got instruments, all of these guitars. Of course, we got some bass. I can show you the processing on this, on these bass tracks. So you can see on the individual ones, again, I'm not even processing them. And you can see I'm just hitting it with some compression. I'm hitting it with a decapitator, which is going to give it distortion and drive it. I'm going to drive it a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
I got a low cut, high cut. I got the tone turned up pretty high here because I want it to be a little bit on the high end with that distortion. And then I'm clipping the bass. So the clipper is actually very similar to like a limiter. It works slightly different, but it's going to introduce less distortion. So limiting is going to introduce distortion. So what you want to do is get the volume of tracks. You don't want to kill the dynamics, but you don't want them crazy dynamics, so volume isn't poking out.
Yeah.
And for things like loud things like a kick or a bass, you're going to get these kind of big booms, and you do kind of want to smash those down. And if you're doing that with limiting, it's going to introduce more distortion. And sometimes you want that, but sometimes you don't. It's nice to clip it. So what this is doing is every time this goes over, it's just flattening that. It's chopping that off there.
Interesting.
And that's going to allow me to turn the bass up without overpowering anything, because those loud parts are going to be kept down. It's a little bit more aggressive than a compressor, less aggressive than a limiter, I guess is a good way to put it. And then I am just hitting it down to some universal audio oxide tape. And this is very fun. I'll loop this so you can hear what the tape's doing here. I'm gonna kill this compressor. So you hear when it's off. You do kind of get that more fatty bottom end, which I like. Actually, I should be a little less heavy-handed with this. But when it turns on, you can get the little bit of tape sound. You're getting a little bit of the saturation. And you can see I have it at the 7.5 size. If you go to 15, you're going to get a higher resolution. But the 7.5, I like. It ages it a little bit, and it affects the tone in a way that I like here. And then same thing, you have this EQ, which affects the types of curves.
You have to have such a good ear to like really apply this stuff.
Yeah.
You have to know what you're listening for, you know?
Yeah, it's just practice. Yeah, you just got to listen a lot, and eventually it just kind of...
Is it a lot of discovery?
Seems to make sense.
Like a lot of discovery in like using these different pedals and...
Yeah, and that's the thing. To bring this back to what Travis was talking about earlier, like, how do you get yourself in that zone?
Yeah.
For me personally, doing this, it is the discovery process that I love. So, like, often, and whether it's exercising or music production, often people will buy exercise equipment and get motivated, or buy a new plugin and get excited, or buy a new little instrument. And then, you know, that kind of wears off for people. So it is kind of like getting back into those things and allowing yourself to rediscover the novelty, even in like an old thing. Use an old instrument or an old plugin that you haven't used, and just play around with it. So for me, like just the playing and putting the puzzle pieces together is kind of what gets me into the zone.
Yeah. Dude.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
So when you're in like that discovery, how often do you, when you're making something like this, do you know exactly what you want to use on certain things? You're like, oh, I definitely want that. Or is it mostly discovery?
What did I just do? It is, with this track, I like writing music through discovery. With this track, I started with the guitar and put it down, and then started looking for inspiration either in like samples or kind of just jamming along, and kind of just discovering the pieces, and then putting those pieces together, and then arranging them. And then the lyrics kind of just like, I like it when they come to you during the writing process, like the music writing process, because the whole thing ultimately, like especially like with this piece and a lot of pieces, when I am inspired, when it hits me to express myself that way, it is kind of like a snapshot of internal states. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And for me, it's a form of like emotional regulation. Right. I was telling Travis, I don't go to therapy. I should, but this is kind of like my therapy.
I love that. And it's cool to see it all like broken down, and like things like we would have never known it was a dog unless you showed us these.
Well, there's a couple actually. There's some other hidden stuff in here, which I think you might like.
You gotta know dogs to get the song.
So here, and I wanted to do, and I'll probably put this into a video, but I can show you that this is actually coming from, you can drop video files in here. And if you can actually do, and I'm actually want to put together a live set, like you guys have seen the videos that I make and with the music and stuff. I want to remix those with the videos, and you can do a live set and hook up a projector, and actually when you're playing and triggering the music, the video is triggered also, and you can project it and do like a really cool show.
That's so cool.
But you can see here, I'm gonna. This is from. This is from Spirited
Away.
Away.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is actually the scene. So this, I'll play you just
movie.
this.
Nice.
So this is the scene where she's becoming a ghost, and he gives her the magic medicine, and she touches his hand, and she says, "I can touch you," and he says, "Yes, now come." So it's a very, it's kind of an inside joke between myself, I guess, but you can see what it sounds like in the mix here. It's just it's very subtle. You might not even notice it if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
I love it.
So that's very subtle. And here I'm processing it. I'm sending it to the delay, the reverb. I'm really getting crazy with these because it's coming from a video and it's like a ripped low quality video kind of like the audio isn't great. So you can see how much, I'm just sweeping looking for frequencies that I don't like and just getting them out of here.
Interesting.
And just really isolating it because you can hear, let me pull up the track. There it is. So I'll just go ahead and loop this real quick. Oops. And I'll turn this off here.
Oh yeah, you cleaned it up a lot.
You can hear that.
Yeah, there's a static, but also like a lot of EQing, right?
There's also music in the background. And I tried to like tune it to my key, but I'm in E major and that was in a minor. It just, during that part, it didn't sound good. So, I'm just getting heavy handed here with this EQ.
I found a tool online. It's a free tool called vocalremover.org. Have you seen this?
There's a bunch of them. There's Fader. I have one in one of my plugins here. And I thought about that. I was like, I'll just remove the vocals. But then I was like, this is fine.
No, I'm not saying you should change it, but like, because I use speaking samples too from media, like and it's sometimes you have to like EQ out the thing or try to kind of like get it into your space, and a lot of times there's like just somebody, like if you get a quote online of somebody talking about something, somebody else put already some music behind them. Get that music out. I want to just get that quote.
Right.
And but this is like a new, and it's always been a thing. I've been doing this this kind of sampling for years and years, and it's always been so difficult. Sometimes if you listen
now it's
close,
a big deal.
Now
that's probably one of the best things
to rip that stuff out
from AI. Yeah, that's one of the best applications of AI is
so
isolating.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is very cool. The Fader.io is a really good one.
Okay.
And now there's a bunch that are built in, like in Serato Sample. I have Serato Sample here, and I can actually just bring samples into this and split them right in my DAW and just export the individual tracks. So like, I'll show you real quick. Let me just pull
what's just really occurred to me that's funny is you're using Ableton Live, which is a music DAW, and then using a video kind of, wrangling together a video workflow. And I kind of do the exact opposite. I use my DAW is Final Cut. Like I compose music in Final Cut a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. I should show you a clip sometime. But tell me about Serato.
I would like to see how you do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd have to load the sample, and I didn't use it here, but it is a feature in Serato Sample. Oops, let me just...
That's cool.
Make sure I didn't destroy anything. It is a feature in Serato Sample where you can just split the drums, the bass, the music, the vocals. You can split it all, and then just get the individual things. And the cool thing in Serato Sample, though, is you can either just export them, or when you're playing in Serato Sample, you can actually chop up. And when you're creating your chops, you can actually be like, this chop is just the bass, this chop is just this vocal piece, this chop is just the drums. Like you can actually...
That's cool.
Move between the different tracks. It's pretty cool. But for here, I just EQ'd the hell out of it, compressed the hell out of it, like I'm crushing it a little bit here, and then hitting it with the decapitator to just really saturate it. Right, and then some EQ to clean it up, and then just some soothe at the end to get rid of these bad frequencies.
Nice. It's really
So you
cool
can still
to see.
hear a little bit. What's that?
Well, it's just really cool to see your workflow because this is really advanced compared to what I'm normally doing. So I like it. I'm learning a lot.
Well, I got to be honest. I don't even know what
there.
I don't know. It's more art than science for me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly. But you can hear now what it sounds like in the mix. Right. So it blends in. I got it to blend.
It's pretty good.
Nice. I've been embarrassed to ask, but is the inside joke like not safe for work nature? Or
for me, it has multiple meanings.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
but,
okay. What? I'm sorry, my brain goes there.
So that's that little sample, and then the vocals. You can see on each one of these, I have very similar processing, and it's just tracked it out 3 times. I've got some mild tuning on here with some slow humanize.
What's humanize?
Cutting off the low end. Humanize
that?
is just like it's less heavy-handed. It's like it's slight, and it'll allow your natural like vibrato to come through. Your natural, it allows. It's just makes it more subtle of the correction.
Okay.
And then here, I'm hitting it with an 1176. I'll just come over here and hit that. So the 1176 is a super fast compressor. It's nice to just chop off when the vocals are first coming in. I'm just taking off a couple, up to 5 dB here. And it's nice. It's nice to chain compressors. You don't want to use one compressor for everything. So right here, I'm using this to just kind of level it out and just kind of bring down those heavy peaks. And then I'm shaping it, and then I'm de-essing it. So this will take the and all of those sounds out. So you can see where it's affecting, and I can set my threshold and my range, like how much I want to bring down the volume. So I'm de-essing, and then I'm hitting it with another compressor. So this 1176 is fast and chopping off those big ones, and then this one is like a warm blanket on top. And this is going to introduce some low end also, because this specific LA2A gray model, it gives it a little bit of boominess, which is nice. So you can hear. But you can see I'm not hitting it too hard. It's just putting like a slower warm blanket on everything. And then hitting it with some distortion, with Decapitator. So I'm doing that on both of these. And then the main track, it's a slightly different shaping here, and then slightly different distortion, just to separate it from the backing tracks. And then, but you can see I'm processing the main, because I kind of like it when everything's dreamy and together, and there's not really like a lead vocal. It's kind of this kind of washiness. It's almost like another instrument in the mix. But you can see the whole chain I'm processing, just cutting out those lows. I'm using this camel strip, which is really dope. All these Safari pedals I love. They sound great. They're so fun to play with. And this strip is sick because you've got like a compressor here. You can adjust some EQ. You can choose what kind of compression if you're doing like a 73, or actually this is the type of EQ compressors over here. So you can actually switch between 3 different EQ models. You can switch between a Fairchild, a 2A, which is one of the compressors I was showing you earlier, or an 1176, which was the other one. So these are modeled after those. And then this is a Fairchild, which is another famous compressor. So you can choose between these different models of hardware, and then different reverbs. And it has everything in this one strip, which is really dope. And you can drive it a little bit. Really, really cool. I can show you. Let me turn all of this off so you can hear what this sounds like when it's all together. So you can hear I turned it off there. So I'm hitting this, and it's kind of brightening it up. Restore some of this volume here. So you can hear what it's doing there. It's cleaning up the signal with the compressor. It's putting it up a little bit up front. Giving it a little bit extra distortion. and you can there's a width built into it, which is kind of nice. So you can hear if I put the width all the way up.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I think I will leave that width up. But even just with this strip, you can hear how much better it sounds. It's off. And now on. So you can hear that since this is group processing, it's taking all of those voices and kind of gluing them together in a very cool way. And then I'm hitting it with this tape. Again, Safari pedals, they've got these tapes, and I love that they make their windows resizable, which is rare in a lot of plugins. Mm-hmm. You have to like click a thing and then choose like 150% or whatever. And I'm like, why don't they just let me drag it? I just want to do this. So yeah, I'm hitting it with this. I should probably leave this oversampling on. But the oversampling eats up the CPU, and I'm going to leave that off for now. So I'm just hitting it with some tape, and then I'm hitting it with some Lifeline console. This is another very cool plugin, which I like to use on like instrument groups or vocal groups. It's got all of these modules here that you can move around. It's very similar to RC20, but it's just got its own flavor. It's got its own vibe. And I love some of these presets. Like I'll even take like a whole instrument group and use the warm pad preset on all of the instruments, and it just gives it this amazing thing. So I'll play it with it off, and then on. So you can hear it's making it shine a little bit in those highs, and I do have this shine up probably a little too high, which is why I'm hitting it with a de-esser again to kind of tame the highs that are introduced by this Lifeline console. So you can hear that I'm saturating it with this cassette. There's some compression, more compression, and then there's like a warm preamp that's driving into this. And then, of course, just a little bit, this is just the low cut on the gain here. And then more to make it cut through the mix on like an iPhone and stuff like that. I want to excite some of those high frequencies. I want to saturate. So I'm running this saturator, which this is made by Softtube. Softtube makes some of the dopest plugins in the world. And you can do quite a bit. Like you can see I can open this whole thing up, and I have like headroom. I can throw a high pass. There's a lot of very, very cool stuff that you can do here. And it's all hidden, as you can see. And then you have this kind of more, real world, what is it called? Skeuomorphic? No, not skeuomorphic. Yeah, skeuomorphic.
The design of it,
Yeah. So this, I'm just driving it. I'm putting the character a little bit bright, and I'm leaving some dynamics here. So you can see when it's off. Hold on, let me go to the chorus here, so you can hear the loudest part. And I'll turn it on. It sounds like there's a perceived loudness, but it's just saturating the signal, so it's creating new harmonics in the higher end of the frequency spectrum. So actually, I can open up this EQ here, and I can show you what it's doing, which is very fun. So I can shut this off, and you can see like the fundamental here, right? And now I'm going to turn it back on, and watch up here. I guess you can't see it that well, but it's adding harmonics in these higher ends for all of the notes down here that are getting hit.
Yeah.
And I do have the high cut here, so I mean I have a low cut anyway, so it doesn't matter. But like it's only affecting anything above 113 hertz, and I'm low cutting. I don't want any of the stuff above like 9 or 10 to be affected here. Actually, probably even lower. So this is just going to give some perceived volume and let it cut through the mix, especially on an iPhone. And I'm cutting off the annoying highs and then just kind of giving it a bump here. And then, like I said, I'm de-essing it because I'm introducing a lot of gain to those sibilances. And then I'm hitting it again with Soothe here. This is such a great plugin just to eat up bad resonances, bad frequencies. Just cleans up of the mix a little bit.
Fascinating.
So now, all of this together, I can shut it off here and you can hear, I'm going to just loop that one line and I'll turn it on and off so you guys can hear the difference.
We could have been good. We could have been bad. We could have been good.
And I'll turn on.
We could have been bad. We could have been good. We could have.
You hear how soft it is and how the lead is blending in with the backgrounds, which I like. Like that's on purpose. I like it to be kind of washy. So yeah, that's the whole thing on and off, and it sounds nice. I think I'm getting it to a nice point. So that's everything. That's all the music, all the instrumentation, all of that. And then you can see I'm only have a reverb and a little echo here. The reverb, and you can see I'm only sending some stuff, like these vocals are kind of getting washed in it. The sample is getting washed in it. The pizzicato sound, the ding, 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 the muted staccato sound. But that's it. And what I'm doing here, I'm running it through Valhalla.
Oh, yeah.
I got like a 20 millisecond pre-delay. Turn the decay down a little bit so it's not too long. I'm cutting the EQ so it's not affecting anything over where those vocal fundamentals are hitting, or like the main part. And then giving it a low cut so it's not affecting any low signals. And then, of course, I'm doing that again here. I want to just make sure that I'm carving out all this space. And then, most importantly, I'm compressing it to the vocals, right? So when the vocals are coming in, you can see that this gain reduction, it's pushing the volume of the reverb down just a little bit so the vocals come out. And then when the vocals stop, the reverb comes up.
We could have been good. We could have been better. We could have been good.
Right, so it's moving the reverb just a little bit out of the way when the vocal signal comes in. And then the coolest thing that I love to do on my reverb bus is I add this any kind of stereo imager or like a stereo spreader. This one's from Waves. I love this one. I also have one from Softtube, which also is. I have a couple of them, and it really just depends on what you're feeling. You can really use any of them. This one's called Widener from Softtube, which is also really, really good. And it gives all these different models and everything. They all do the same thing, but they all have their own kind of different vibe. And that's kind of the fun thing about having a bunch of different toys. I know that they say like, oh, limit yourself and just use stock plugins or don't get a bunch of plugins. But when you end up with a bunch of plugins and you've played with them, it's you kind of are free. Like, oh, I feel like using this one today or this one, and you know how to use them, and it just kind of gives it a different vibe. So this is going to widen that reverb, so I can actually play just the reverb signal.
Wow.
This is the reverb that's happening underneath.
Yeah.
And then when I turn on the imager, you see what just happened?
Yeah. Spreads
Now
the stereo out wider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the reverb's out here, and you want to keep the bass and all that kind of bass stuff in the middle, and then effects and like highs onto the sides. So this is so that's a little trick I love to use, is to just spread the reverb. And then here for the echo, I'm just running this tape echo from Softtube, which is also beautiful. Gives it this kind of tape texture. I've just got short delay, and then added a little bit extra dirt, lowered the feedback, and then I'm just driving it into this.
Wow.
And this is just an echo, so you can hear. That's what's coming out in the background, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is very funny. But it just gives it a little bit extra separation. So that's it. That's the entire like track. And then the only thing I have is my master processing. So on my master track, I kind of stay around the same. I play around with different things all the time, but I kind of stay around the same master chain. And what that is I will hit it with an SSL compressor from Waves. And I learned this trick from another producer online, I think Streaky on YouTube. I think this is, yeah, I don't know if you guys, shout out Streaky. And he learned it, he said he learned it from somebody else, but it is nice because you put a really slow attack and a really fast release. So it's not aggressive. It like takes a minute to clamp on the signal and then it lets go of it very quickly. So it's just hitting kind of like the very peaks. And as you can see, I am actually just hitting, so you can see when it's coming through, I am barely hitting this needle.
Seriously.
At the loudest parts of the songs. I'm taking, not even 2 dB. I should actually take even less off. Right? I just want to hit that, just kiss the needle. And I've got no makeup gain, and so this is just going to put a nice blanket over the entire mix and just kind of glue it. So I'll play it for you without and on. So you can hear what that did to like the low end, the way the low end's mixing in with the rest. And then I hit it with this Goldfoss Master. This is another kind of like AI resonance filter similar to Soothe. I don't know why I like using Soothe on individual tracks, even though it eats up your processor. And then I'll run Goldfoss on here and I'll tame it just a little bit. I don't like being heavy-handed with this. You can see I'm doing like a 5%, 17, like pretty low values here. But this is going to just kind of clean up the mix a little bit, so you can hear what it's doing here. Did you hear how the vocals popped out right there? So it just cleans up everything in a very nice way. I like what Goldfoss does.
Goldfoss.
And then I'm just hitting it to tape. This is the Universal Audio Ampex ATR 102 model. And I'm actually just using the preset of the pushed 456 Fat Master. This is just it's bringing out some of that low end. So
that Fat Master though, right?
And then turn it on here. So you just kind of glue everything. You kind of want to follow that, like what you would do in the studio. You would like record a track, print it to tape, record a track, print it to tape, and then the whole thing would go onto a 2-track. So you'd have like your 16 tape tracks, and then it all gets compressed at the end to this 2-track. And you kind of want to follow that same sonic modeling path in the DAW. And then this is my favorite thing is Master Plan. This thing is gangster. This is just for mastering, for getting that volume up. So this gives me a bunch of tools in one product, and it's amazing. So what this does, it's going to get louder. I don't know if you noticed it was quiet. Now it's going to be loud again. I hope it's not too loud.
No, it's good.
No? Okay. So this is what's getting it that kind of volume, so you can put it on Spotify and put it on, this is what masters it. So, I'm just driving the signal in a little bit, and this has a bunch of tools all in one. So you do have like some EQ here if you want to use it. You can kind of thicken up the low end. So this is going to just kind of take those low frequencies and just kind of boost them and thicken up the track. You can clean it up, right? This is going to clean up the resonance, kind of like another built-in thing that will get like low mids and muddiness. And it's kind of just a taste. Smooth is just like a compressor, a little bit of like very light compression, and then Calm will remove some of these resonant frequencies. And you can just dial it in as you want, and then they have their own tape emulation. I'm not sure if I love this, but I think I am going to leave the tape on this track. And then, you can widen the signal just a little bit more, which is nice. And the only thing that it doesn't have, which I love, is if you go to Isotope, there's Insight. So Insight gives you a lot of information about your track. And what you want to do is like look for loudness. You usually want it at about like -14 to -12, I guess, to go on Spotify or to be at the same volume as everything else.
Yeah.
And most of these things are going to take that and either turn it down or turn it up to match everything. But you want to get it in that range without distortion, without distorting the signal. And that's why Master Plan is dope. When you're turning this up and you're driving this loudness knob, it's not just a limiter. It's a series of clippers and limiters that you're driving it through. So you're able to get it loud without any distortion. So I can actually play this for you. And at the loudest part of the song here, you see I'm hitting that target of about negative 14 LUFS. And LUFS is... it's a little bit different than like RMS, because that's like the actual peak of audio. LUFS is the perceived peak. It takes into account that we hear certain ranges of frequencies more clearly, like the human brain is attuned to a very specific range of frequencies, especially where like the voice sits. So if you're looking at an EQ, any sounds up here, like the sound of a baby crying or human voice, we're like specially attuned to these frequencies. So when you're turning frequencies up in certain frequency ranges, the perceived volume is going to be different, even though it's the same volume as what's down here. So LUFS is like, I guess, the industry standard of measuring perceived volume in a track. So that's what we're looking at here are these LUFS, and we're hitting that target, and you can hear, I'll turn it on and off, that there's no distortion.
Oh, dude.
So that's it quiet.
Yeah. Give me back the LUFS.
And then, so you can hear I'm pushing it to a competitive audio level. It's just the signal is not distorted. It sounds great.
Yeah.
This is an amazing plugin. But what it is missing is some of this like stuff that you get with Insight, which is like sound field spectrum, right? So if I want to look at my stereo field, if I'm adjusting the wideness here, you see most is in the front here, but you're seeing, I think this is a pretty decent stereo signal. But you see as I widen this, you can see how filled in it is here now.
Yeah.
Look at that.
You don't want it that wide?
Maybe in this track. It depends on the track. Actually, I might keep it a little bit wider here.
You just got to feel it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's kind of can change from day to day. Like you can be listening to it one day and be like, "This is dope," and then come back and be like, "Actually, I like it wide now."
Yeah.
There's no wrong way, I don't think, within reason. But yeah, this is going to get, if you want to monitor like the wideness, you do want to use like something like this. There's also like intelligibility, which I've never used. But I do use the spectrum here to see kind of an overview of the shape of my track. And you always kind of want that kind of shape where I want that low end a little bit higher and then to arch down. And I think I'm getting a good shape here. Yeah. So, but that's it. This is the final plugin, and it goes at the end of all of my chains. It's super dope. Of course, I could remove it and then just widen it myself and throw on a limiter or a couple clippers and a limiter and then use Insight. It's nice to have a single tool that everything's there. And like these kinds of little things where like if you're thickening up the, so that this will add a saturation circuit. So it's all, so you can hear what this does.
Yeah.
It's subtle, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this plugin. I like plugins when they do, and even like instruments when it's subtle. So like addictive drums, for example, like when you're using those to program drums, like the volumes are kind of already at the right level, which is nice. Like that's an example. Like a lot of times you'll get something where they try to make the individual sound as big as possible, but you don't want that in a track, and then you end up having to like carve out the EQ. Anyway, but yeah, and when it comes to these plugins, it's nice when they're not so heavy-handed. These are all very subtle things. So like, for example, other than tape, I can turn these off and you can hear how subtle these are. So I'll thicken it. with a little bit of compression. Right, you almost can't hear it unless you're really listening. And then if you have them all off at once, I'll turn them on real quick so you can kind of hear it in a quicker fashion, the change. You hear what it did there?
Yeah.
It's very subtle, but
there's a lot of subtlety that goes
nice.
into this
Right.
labor. You know, the whole
Yeah.
thing is there's a lot of subtle changes, listening, deciding, nudging, adjusting, going back.
yeah. It can get overwhelming. You do have to get to
Yeah.
a point where it's just, and this is something that I've been kind of telling myself, like, life doesn't have to be great. I don't have to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. And I think when you're a creator, often you can get stuck in perfection, but you can step back and say, is it good enough? And it's like, yeah, it's fine. Put it out, move on. It's good enough.
Yeah.
You know,
With your
the
understanding and your deep understanding and knowledge of plugins, have you ever thought about making one of your own? Do you think that would be possible?
yeah, I'd love to, but there's
Yeah.
already so many out there that are better than anything I could make. Like,
Really? I think you could.
you- I think about designing them a lot, and when it comes to interface design, like I've worked with a lot of financial products where I'm building calculators. I've taken a lot of inspiration from certain designs.
Yeah.
And actually
yeah.
Ableton's stock stuff
Mm-hmm.
is their designs are great, and they're not
Yeah.
skeuomorphic at all. All of the stock stuff from Ableton,
They're
and you can see
nice.
like they're beautiful, and the stock stuff in Ableton is absolutely amazing. But I'll take like certain things like even the compressor UI. Some of these things for like calculators, it's just a nice inspiration that can go beyond music. It can be applied to like any kind of tool that you're developing, any kind of UI.
Processing tool.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's it. That's the whole track. Shout out Master Plan. I love this so much. Now, one of the coolest things also about this, sorry, not to geek out right now, but like my favorite thing is also the referencing. So I can actually hear, they have models off of these N10 Yamaha speakers, which have become famous because they only focus on the mid-range, and it's kind of been said that if you can make it sound good on those speakers, it'll sound good anywhere. So I can actually kind of listen and model what it sounds like on those on a phone. I can listen to it in mono, so you can actually...
That's so cool. Nice. Oh, wow.
And you can say... And this is what led me, listening to it on the phone, that's what led me to say, like, oh, I need to saturate the harmonics for the vocals to get them to cut through the mix on this device.
Right.
And it's
That's where
nice
most
because you
people
can...
listen.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people listen. So it's kind of nice to like hear it, do it, check it, and then also be able to remove it to make sure that it's not affecting the mix in other environments. So yeah, this is very cool.
Nice. Yeah. That's
But you can hear on the NS10, it sounds pretty good, I think. But when I turn it off, then you can hear it fill in with the lows.
Yeah.
Right. Very cool. I mean, these guys, it is kind of game changing for music producers, because I'm not a mastering engineer. It is very difficult to learn mastering. There's a lot of like secrets, but it's nice when there's a company like this that kind of like, they put out a lot of information. They do like blog posts and like how they remove all the secrets. There's no black box here. Like, you know what everything's doing, but it does it well, and it's all in one place. It's
Do you think
fantastic.
this something like, would this cut out the need to send this off to a mastering place? Or would you
It
still do that?
depends. If you want to be legit, you got to have a legit person master it. If you're not but nowadays, I like raw music. You know, there's so many bedroom producers that are just putting stuff up that,
Straight up.
like my music, the music that I make, it's not going to be played next to like Taylor Swift or,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's not that kind of music. So I actually don't care if it'd be nice to afford a professional mastering engineer, have them do it.
Yeah.
I kind of like doing it myself, knowing that I did it and that it's good enough.
I feel like the concept outshines the details a lot of the time. Like if you a strong song is a strong song, no matter if you spent a lot of money having somebody master it or not, because of the concept, not because of the production quality, you know.
Yeah, a badly recorded good song will always be better than like a super polished, high production
bad
pile
song.
of shit.
Yeah.
That's just lipstick on the pig, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You definitely got to start with a good song, start with like good samples, good source sounds.
So
and then after that, it's
how many hours are we looking at, right, to get to this point?
I don't know, maybe 6 total. I mean, I worked on it.
Damn, that's fast. I was thinking like
really
30.
No, not 30 hours. No, I worked on it like one night where I like wrote it, and did like some minor mixing, and then I came back to it another day when I put in that sample and kind of like cleaned it up and just fixed some things, and that was it.
Bro.
So yeah, maybe 4 to 6 hours so far.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
But it's not done. There still is a lot that I want to do. But again, going back to like, if it's the song is good enough to where I can go through this process, but everything gets annoying after a while. And once you start kind of hating it and you're like feeling like, oh, I want to change it, or this thing I wanted to add or whatever, it's kind of like, okay, it's good enough now. Move on to another thing.
It's
Because there's a lot I wanted to add. There's a whole other verse that I wrote, but it's like, I'm sick of the song already. So I want to move on to something else. And I don't know if that's bad or good, but I think it is a path to creating more, just putting more out.
We were talking before we went live about sometimes the purpose of this music, and you mentioned it on the stream, like it's like kind of therapeutic. And we were saying like sometimes you put stuff into art or into music, painting, whatever it is, but like you put it into something, what's inside, you put it in as an effort to externalize. You externalize your thoughts, externalize your emotions into this composition.
Into this external thing.
Yeah, now it's there, right? And you can sit back and you can be like, I did feel
ponder
that.
Your feelings.
Yeah, like this is something I'm working through, or this is something I'm thinking or feeling, and like this is a good and there's something really cathartic about having a good representation of how you feel, and being able to externalize that. I think super valuable, super powerful. Yeah.
It helps you articulate certain things for sure. I mean, that is kind of what I love about art in general. It is where linguistics fail. And we need something else to emote or to express something that transcends linguistics. It's a whole cloud of things, and sometimes you have to spit that whole cloud out to be able to step back and look at it and articulate it and apply linguistics to what was happening there. I think it helps the process. So yeah, that's the whole track. I'll play it. I'll play it from the beginning if you want to hear the whole thing. It's only a minute. Okay.
Run it.
When you say I love you, I believe it.
Beautiful.
That was nice, dude. I liked how you were bringing up the plugins and whatever as you were playing it through, and I was like, oh, I know what that does now. Like.
Yeah.
This
So
has been really
bene
cool.
insieme, does that mean like good together?
Yeah, it means good together.
That's in Italian?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
See. Yeah, so that is a breakdown of this entire track, 2-minute track. And now, you guys have any questions, or should I close live?
Yeah, I think, dude, that thing was really
was,
cool.
like, really awesome deep dive.
Thank you.
Very
It's super
visual
fun.
too. Yeah. So
Yeah,
many...
but I did go into like a lot of, because this is a finished track. I think another time we'll do a session where, because Travis was saying that he wishes he knew Ableton. Another time we'll start one from scratch.
Nice.
And start simply instead of jumping into the deep end where there's quite a bit of stuff going on here.
Yeah. Maybe we can record our birds as a little sample.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna quit that and I'll stop sharing my screen, and that's exactly an hour. So I'll turn it over to one of you guys now.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks for letting me show that, though.
Thank you for sharing that.
I think you carried the whole episode, dude. That was really good. Maybe we can talk about the other projects like in like next week or something like that. How do you feel about that, Jane, or do you want to talk today?
Yeah, I don't mind. I think that was wonderful. I had like some funny GPT Reddit things to share, but we can do that next time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody for tuning in. We're going to hang out on the line and talk a little bit more because we're all friends here. But thanks for tuning into the stream, and we'll see you next Sunday. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.